Welcome into the Season 2 You recap. If you haven't seen the recap for Season 1, just search on my channel page. You'll be easily able to find it. But after Candace shows up, the two go have a very public lunch, and Candace is making him sweat as she draws out what she wants from him. The whole time, Joe looks more and more uncomfortable until finally he excuses himself to go to the bathroom, but in reality, he slips out the back door. He tries to leave town, but Candace has his phone number, and right before he does, she calls him up and says, "I'm going to hunt you down and make you feel like who you actually are, because sending you to prison is just way too easy." So Joe heads to a city that he thinks Candace thinks he hates. Los Angeles. He gets a new identity. He's going by the name Will Bittelheim, although I'll probably still call him Joe. He gets a new place to live in an apartment complex, and while he's surveying the people that live there, just like he did in the bookstore, he's interrupted by a little 15-year-old girl named Ellie who's filling him in into who everybody is in the apartment complex and what they do, including her older sister who she lives with named Delilah, who's a gossip blogger. Now Joe needs a job, and he heads to basically a bougier Whole Foods, a place called Anavrin. And while the fit to work there isn't great, he slips in a crime and punishment book, and it gets him immediately hired peddling books at the store. I mean, think of if Barnes & Noble's main thing was food and not books. You have your little side cafe. That's where they sell the books. And right after his first shift, he runs into Love Quinn, who immediately catches his eye. As he's doing the same thing he did to Beck, he stops himself and says, no, you can't do this again. But the two start flirting a little bit, and he finds out that she actually works in the store as one of the chefs. So he'll be running into her quite a bit. He also runs into the owner's kid, a guy named 40, who is the definition of a California douchebag. And it's pretty clear that this guy pushes the staff around. He's still very paranoid, however, about Candace catching him. And as he's walking home, he notices Ellie filming him from the roof of their apartment complex. So he heads up there and demands to know, "Who told you to film me?" She says, "Nobody." He reaches for the phone, but the phone falls off the roof and cracks, and she says, "You dickhead, I was filming something for school." So now he needs to get her a new cell phone, but he also needs to get a new license, so he heads to the DMV, and he runs into Love there as well. She's defending an Arabic woman, and they happen to do the, "Oh, hey, what are you doing here" thing. And since it seems like the universe is telling him something by these two chance encounters, he decides afterwards to look her up on Facebook and Instagram. But unlike Beck and just about everybody else that lives in California, her profiles are set to private, so he needs to come up with an alternative plan. He heads to the phone store, gets Ellie a new phone, and as she's setting it up, she notices that one of the accounts is fake, and he says, "How do you know it's fake?" And she's pointing out all the things that show that an account isn't actually a real account. So he processes all this new data and sets up his own new Facebook and a new Instagram. And while he hates himself for it, it's necessary. He heads to the park, friend requests Love, and then falls asleep and has a dream about the day that his mother abandoned him. When he wakes up, he's sunburned, but Love has also accepted his friend request, and he'll gladly take that trade-off. Unfortunately for Joe, however, it says that she's married. He heads home, and somehow Love found out that he called out of work sick and also where he lives, and she heads on over there to patch him up from the sunburn. She also notices that he has no food, and since he's new to town, she decides, as a chef, to take him to all these different places and figure out what his palate is. After taking him to a few spots, she finally thinks she has his palate figured out. So they head back to Anavrin, and she ends up cooking him up this dish to get his, quote, perfect bite. As the two are sharing a moment, she says, "I have to tell you something. I was married, but my husband died. He got sick, and we got married when we were young, and it's weird enough getting married that early, but then also being this young and being a widower. But I can also tell when someone's dealt with a similar loss. When I look into your eyes, I see that you've dealt with that." And boy, has he ever. As a parting gift for the night, she gives him a book of a poet that she cannot believe Joe hasn't dived into. And Joe Goldberg is officially smitten. He heads home and he's greeted by Ellie, who shows him a picture of a guy and says, "Hey, this guy's name's Jasper. He was here looking for you. He said you have something of his." And you gotta remember, Joe is using a fake name. She also points out that the guy was kind of creepy. Joe waits for her to go into her apartment, and when she does, he heads out, goes to a storage facility, and there in the storage facility is not only the cage, but some guy in the cage. And that guy is the real Will Bittelheim. And Joe wants to know who Jasper is and why he's looking for him. And while this whole time Joe has been playing it off like he knows he can't get into a relationship, the reality is Love caught his eye, and he did everything in his power not only to get a job in the same place that she works at, but also to get an apartment right across the street where he can spy on her. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.